In 1912, human engineering reached a fever pitch. At the docks of Southampton, a vessel stood towering over the crowds, representing the absolute peak of industrial ambition, the Titanic. The passenger manifest reflected a stark social divide. In the lower decks, immigrants from across Europe carried their entire lives in hand luggage, while just a few floors up, the world's wealthiest families occupied suites designed to rival the finest mansions on land. Across every class, one belief united the passengers. The engineers and the public alike trusted a single defining idea. This vessel was effectively immune to the dangers of the sea. Stepping inside felt like walking into a grand estate. Passengers were surrounded by ornate paneling, plush lounges, and the constant sound of live music and dancing. For those on board, the Titanic functioned as a physical proof of mankind's control over the ocean, a massive iron demonstration that they had finally outgrown the risks of the past. Yet, just inches beyond the glowing windows and warm dining rooms lay a freezing, completely black expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. Drifting silently through that darkness, directly in the path of the ship, was a massive wall of ice. The situation was a direct confrontation between 52,000 tons of engineering and the silent, immovable power of the North Atlantic. Late into the night, the freezing air offered crystal clarity, but practically zero moonlight. When the lookout spotted the dark mass looming ahead, the gap was already rapidly closing. This diagram shows the deadly physics at play. The Titanic weighed over 50,000 tons and was pushing a massive forward momentum vector. Compared to its limited turning radius, stopping or swerving in time was a mathematical impossibility. Instead of a head-on collision, the ship scraped along the jagged edge of the ice. The impact was a grinding, violent tear down the starboard side. Up in the first-class lounges, the strike barely rattled the teacups, but deep beneath the floorboards, thousands of gallons of freezing seawater were already violently breaching the ship's lower compartments. Because the vessel was so enormous, it took time for the damage to translate into a noticeable tilt. The sheer scale of the ship allowed the illusion of safety to persist, even as the mathematics of the flooding meant it was already lost. As the bow began to dip toward the waterline, mild confusion turned into terror. The undeniable reality of the flooding finally broke the calm. This chart compares the total number of people on board with the capacity of the lifeboats. Because designers believed the ship could not sink, they treated lifeboats as a visual eyesore rather than a necessity, leaving enough room for only about half the passengers. That realization triggered a stampede across the wooden decks. People pushed frantically toward the few available boats as the slant grew steeper. Fathers said goodbye to their children, knowing the math. Hundreds of people realized they were going to be left standing on a freezing deck with absolutely nowhere to go. For the few who secured a seat, survival meant being lowered into darkness, listening to the chaos above while drifting alone in the freezing vastness. The iceberg caused the hull to fail, but the design limited the survivors. By prioritizing open deck space over lifeboat capacity, the ship's planners had removed the final safety net for over 1,000 people. In the early hours of April 15th, the structural stress reached its limit. The immense weight of the water pulling the bow down caused the stern to rise high into the air, snapping the immense ship in half. The broken halves slipped beneath the surface, spiraling thousands of feet down to the lightless bottom of the Atlantic. By morning, the news hit the mainland. More than 1,500 men, women, and children had perished in the freezing temperatures. The disaster overturned the 1912 assumption that engineering had finally outpaced risk. In the months that followed, the tragedy forced an international overhaul of safety standards, ensuring that never again would a vessel be permitted to leave port without a seat for every soul on board. Today, the vessel sits in total silence, 2.5 miles below the surface. Ornate panels and bright chandeliers have been consumed by iron-eating bacteria. What was once a vibrant palace is now a skeletal, decaying ruin. The Titanic stands as a permanent caution. It demonstrates that even our most ambitious machines remain subject to the basic, unforgiving laws of the environment they are built to cross.
Subscribe to my channel.